Good morning. Thanks for joining me for this final day of devotions this week. I hope that you've had a good week. I hope that this journey through Deuteronomy has been helpful to you also. Our reading for today is Deuteronomy chapter 5, beginning in verse 22. These words the Lord spoke with a loud voice to your whole assembly at the mountain, out of the fire, the cloud, and the thick darkness, and he added no more. He wrote them on 2 stone tablets and gave them to me. When you heard the voice out of the darkness while the mountain was burning with fire, you approached me, all the heads of your tribes and your elders. And you said, "Look, the Lord our God has shown us his glory and greatness, and we have heard his voice out of the fire. Today we have seen that God may speak to someone and the person may still live. So now why should we die? For this great fire will consume us. If we hear the voice of the Lord our God any longer, we shall die. For who is there of all flesh that has heard the voice of the living God speaking out of fire as we have, and remained alive? Go near, you yourself, and hear all that the Lord our God will say, and tell us everything that the Lord our God tells you, and we will listen and do it." And then I might be paraphrasing, but Moses replies, "Promises, promises." This is the hope of the people. They see God come out of fire and smoke. This is at Horeb. This is when they're on the mountain, and they think, well, how can we ever not do what God commanded us when we saw this amazing sign from God, the fire, the smoke, the mountain? And as we all know, when you step away from the mountain, it becomes a lot easier to forget what happened there and to not do what you said you would do when you were there at the mountain. We often talk in Christian circles about thin places and mountaintop experiences. Thin places are places where it feels like the boundary between heaven and earth is not quite as thick as it usually is. It's easier to relate to God. And mountaintop experiences reflect those thin places. We often think of mountains as thin places. So we go up to the mountain, we have this mountaintop experience like the people of Israel, like Moses, and we feel close to God, and then we step away and we forget. And wasn't this the problem of the Israelites? When they finally did cross over into the promised land, and they got to rest on their laurels a little bit, they got to enjoy the blessings of an easier life, they forgot. And every day, we are tempted to forget the mountaintop experiences that we've had in our lives. Those times when we've been in thin places and felt God's presence near and made promises to God. I would encourage you today to think back on mountaintop experiences that you might have had in your life. Think back on a time when God felt so real to you, so present in your life, and you thought, how could I not believe this? How could I not trust in God? Take yourself back to that time and remember that God is just as present now as God was then. And maybe, on a Saturday in the middle of, or towards the end of May, it might not feel like God is just as present as God was at that mountaintop experience. But we can invoke God's name, invoke God's presence whenever and wherever we are. And with God's presence beside us, we can offer God's love, God's peace, taste of that mountaintop experience to the people around us as well. I pray that you'll have that kind of experience today. Would you join me in prayer? Help us, God, to do the one thing that is necessary, to tend to the poor, to walk alongside the poor, to find you among the poor, to declare ourselves poor, as long as anyone suffers need. May we begin this journey with just one person today and find your presence alongside us as we do so. Amen. Have a blessed day.